In an era where new releases flood the market with dazzling graphics and complex mechanics, many gamers find themselves overwhelmed by the sheer scale and demands of modern titles. Yet amidst this, there is a growing desire to return to simpler yet deeply engaging experiences that classic games uniquely offer. Games Worth Revisiting in 2025 addresses this pain point by highlighting timeless titles that not only evoke nostalgia, but also deliver gameplay that remains challenging, fun, and relevant even today. These games provide a refreshing break from the often overwhelming modern gaming landscape, reminding us why they became beloved classics in the first place, and why they continue to captivate players in 2025. While Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown might not have been a sales giant, it was a genuinely great game. It also served as a fantastic reminder of just how consistently good the Prince of Persia series has always been, especially the Sands of Time trilogy. Those games still hold up remarkably well and are quite accessible on PC. Granted, you might need to do a little tweaking to get them running perfectly. For instance, you'll have to bind controller controls manually. But even with that, these games are still a blast to play today. Their core mechanic remains incredibly unique, being able to slow down time for precise platforming or rewind time to undo mistakes and survive fatal falls. It's a simple yet brilliant idea that was executed flawlessly, and it's surprising that more games haven't adopted it, given how much it enhances the gameplay. All three games in the trilogy are excellent. While the first game is arguably the strongest, the sequels certainly have their own strengths. The second game's tone is a bit edgier than necessary, but the fundamental gameplay remains solid. It's still Prince of Persia where it counts. The third game in particular features some really clever stealth mechanics. I especially appreciate how it expands on the climbing and platforming elements from previous titles, allowing you to get the drop on enemies before engaging in combat. For a game trilogy, the quality here is remarkably consistent even if the tone shifts a bit. It's a quality series that, despite its age, largely still holds up. There's a lot of excitement surrounding whatever Crystal Dynamics is developing for the next Tomb Raider game. However, with Netflix releasing a new animated series based on the Survivor trilogy, it's a perfect time to revisit the 2013 reboot. The Netflix show directly references events from that game, essentially positioning itself as a sequel. While the narrative isn't the primary draw for these games, the 2013 reboot remains incredibly enjoyable. Some might argue that it leans into the Uncharted style, but then again, Uncharted itself drew inspiration from Tomb Raider. These two franchises have a deeply intertwined history at this point. Regardless, Crystal Dynamics consistently delivers high-quality games. Even if there's some derivativeness, it doesn't detract from the fact that both series are excellent. The 2013 reboot's mature rating, intense violence, and semi-horror atmosphere give it a distinct feel. It was also a pioneer in third-person shooters by featuring a dodge mechanic which has since become a staple in the genre. Despite its largely linear progression, the interconnected island setting sometimes evokes a Metroidvania feel. The pacing is nearly flawless, constantly introducing new tools, weapons, and varied scenarios. The story, while not groundbreaking, is perfectly suited for a video game. You're always engaged in something new, and the exploration during downtime is a blast. For a game over a decade old, it holds up remarkably well. It's tough to go back to Alien Isolation. It's a genuinely terrifying experience. However, there's no better time to revisit it, or even try it for the first time, because Creative Assembly recently announced on October 7, 2024 that they're working on a sequel. This news came completely out of the blue, especially since it's been 10 years since the original game was released. For a long time, Alien Isolation felt like it would remain a unique standalone masterpiece. While I don't think anyone wanted a sequel, no one really expected one, but it's happening. And even better, the original developers are at the helm. All signs point to this sequel being in excellent hands, making now the perfect moment to dive back into the chilling world of Alien Isolation. Many people bought the game due to its initial hype, but how many actually finished it? Alien Isolation is notoriously challenging and unforgiving, particularly in those early encounters with the xenomorph. I'm not trying to be harsh, but a lot of players found themselves wussing out because of the sheer terror. However, with a bit of perseverance, it's a game anyone can complete. And even after multiple playthroughs, one of the most impressive aspects of Alien Isolation is that it never stops being scary. Most horror games lose their fright factor after the first playthrough, but Alien Isolation maintains its intense tension because the xenomorph is incredibly unpredictable. Just when you think you've figured out its patterns, it will undoubtedly catch you off guard. It truly will get you. For those who've now seen Metro Awakening in action, perhaps you're looking for another intense Metro experience. Or maybe you're just craving a classic. If so, why not revisit the game that started it all? We're talking about the Redux version, not the original. This updated edition brings a lot of small but significant improvements and changes that make for a much smoother experience, especially if you're playing on consoles. Think of Metro as a blend of Stalker and Call of Duty. While that might sound like an insult, it's actually a huge compliment. Metro offers all the immersive elements of the Stalker games, and perhaps even more so, while also boasting a far more compelling story-driven narrative. The first Metro game is quite linear, and for good reason. You'll spend most of your time exploring Moscow's sprawling subway tunnels and transportation network, all set in a world where a nuclear war has transformed the surface into a snowy, uninhabitable hellscape. It's a bleak experience, but the world building in Metro is absolutely fantastic, and the gameplay is incredibly solid. If you're a fan of story-driven first-person shooters, there's a lot to love about the original Metro. Much like how games such as the Rise of the Triad remake and Shadow Warrior spearheaded a resurgence of classic-style shooters, the New Order played a crucial role in kickstarting this trend. While it feels like a fantastic new retro-inspired FPS is released almost weekly now, the landscape was very different when the New Order launched. Back then, many players found themselves primarily playing the latest Call of Duty installment. And while those games certainly have their place, variety is indeed the spice of life. The New Order offered a much-needed breath of fresh air, allowing players to dual-wield machine guns and charge through levels, blasting enemies with reckless abandon. The game also brought back familiar elements like health and armor pickups along with hidden secrets. The presentation was spot on, further enhanced by Mick Gordon's incredible soundtrack. Beyond the gameplay, the New Order even delivered a surprisingly well-told and often emotional story. While it may not be as fluid to play as Doom, which refined many of the concepts the New Order introduced, it remains an excellent game in its own right. Nearly every major Castlevania title is now accessible on PC, yet one glaring omission remains: Castlevania Symphony of the Night. This is the game that literally coined the term Metroidvania, a foundational title in gaming history, and there's still no official way to play it on PC. If you're on PlayStation, you can grab the PS4 collection, which works perfectly fine on a PS5. Xbox users can still purchase and play the Xbox 360 port. But for PC gamers, we're out of luck. It's a huge missed opportunity, especially with Konami's recent releases like the Dominus Collection sparking a renewed interest in the series. It's incredibly tempting to revisit the game that fundamentally shifted the franchise's direction. For many who grew up with it, Symphony of the Night remains the pinnacle of the series. While those who started with the Game Boy Advance or DS titles might have different favorites, the original PlayStation classic is undeniably an all-time great. It's a must-play for anyone who enjoys games focused on expansive exploration, unlocking new movement abilities, and battling iconic monsters. The game isn't particularly difficult, especially considering its age, which only makes it easier to jump back into. It's just a shame that, with all the re-releases Konami has been putting out lately, Symphony of the Night hasn't made its way to PC. It feels like an oversight that needs to be corrected. Alright, I don't want to ruffle too many feathers, but let's talk about the Borderlands movie. It feels like the safest of safe bets, and honestly, I'm just gonna say it, it's not good. I didn't exactly pay for a ticket to see it myself, but I'm certainly glad I didn't leave the house for that one. Now, on the flip side, we have Telltale. They gave us one of their best games, proving that it's absolutely possible to tell a compelling story within the Borderlands universe. When you first hear Telltale The Walking Dead guys making a Borderlands game, it sounds like a terrible idea, right? Does Borderlands even have a consistent lore to pull from? It really sounded like a disaster waiting to happen. But they didn't just make it work, they made it fantastic. They crafted a genuinely entertaining story with truly endearing characters and an engaging plot. They even managed to bring back Handsome Jack from Borderlands 2 in a way that made perfect sense and gave him a fitting, satisfying send-off. Compared to other Telltale classics like The Walking Dead and The Wolf Among Us, Tales from the Borderlands is definitely goofier, but the stellar storytelling is absolutely still there. It's a great game, one of Telltale's absolute best. And it still feels a little crazy to say that even after all these years, because it's still a Borderlands adventure game spin-off, but that doesn't make it any less true. Here's a thought for another 21-year-old classic. Before the massive indie game boom of the 2010s, titles like Katamari Damacy were incredibly uncommon, and they truly stand out in our collective memory. So stop me if you've heard this one before. You play as the prince, son of the king of all cosmos, who went on a cosmic bender and destroyed the entire universe. Now, it's up to you to roll things up on Earth and use them to create new stars. Yes, the bizarre presentation is certainly what draws you in, but the ingenious gameplay is what cements its classic status. Using intuitive twin-stick controls, you guide this Katamari around, gradually picking up small objects until you slowly grow bigger and bigger. In the initial levels, you're just building tiny little balls of everyday trash. By the end of the game, you're literally picking up entire continents. It's wonderfully absurd, and the miniature diorama levels are an absolute joy to explore. The music, too, is simply unrivaled. I mean, there's a romantic love song in the soundtrack that literally features the lyric, "I want to roll you up into my life." It's a genuinely romantic song, dedicated to the Katamari. Both this game and its sequel, We Love Katamari, have been re-released, making them easy to acquire and play. They both work perfectly, and honestly, if you're searching for some goofy but incredibly addictive fun, they come highly recommended. While Red Dead Redemption 2 is undeniably an amazing achievement, it absolutely stands on the shoulders of its predecessor. In fact, depending on who you ask, some players even prefer the original. The first game feels a bit more focused and less narratively sprawling, and its controls often seem more responsive. Now, this was entirely by design. Rockstar deliberately crafted Red Dead Redemption 2 the way it is. However, some prefer the more gamey approach taken with the first installment. For me, it's a bit of a toss-up, as they are truly very different beasts. There's just something about the original that makes me want to revisit it more often. I wouldn't necessarily say it's because it's a better game. I'm not sure it is. Still, the game truly holds up. As I mentioned, I always find myself wanting to go back to it, and I believe it still features one of Rockstar's finest stories. If anything, it's a great title to revisit because it's shorter than Red Dead Redemption 2, yet you still get an epic story in a fraction of the time. Sure, the world might look a little more washed out and barren compared to its successor, and it lacks the sequel's insane attention to detail. But if you're simply looking for an awesome Wild West story, the original Red Dead Redemption definitely delivers. With Grand Theft Auto 6 hopefully arriving next year, many might gravitate toward GTA Online for their open-world crime fix. However, I find it far more insightful to revisit the game that truly ushered GTA into the next-gen era of its time. GTA 4 stands as a landmark title for many reasons. Rockstar was clearly aiming for something different here. It's a slightly slower-paced, more character-driven experience, perhaps less overtly fun and a bit more serious than other entries. Liberty City itself is often overcast and gray, a far cry from the vibrant amusement parks found in other GTA iterations. Rockstar truly tried to inject a sense of gritty realism into the world's design, at least for one of their games. The game also incorporates elements of a life simulation within its open world. You have friends to hang out with, dates to go on, and even internet cafes and live performances to see. These myriad activities are all there to enhance the world's immersion. In many ways, it feels like a precursor to the deep immersion that Red Dead Redemption 2 would later achieve. While the graphics haven't aged particularly well and the controls can feel a bit awkward by modern standards, GTA 4 remains one of the most unique and interesting games in the entire series. And if GTA 4 isn't entirely to your taste, there's always episodes from Liberty City. These are mini-campaigns where you play as other characters whose stories run parallel to Nico Bellic's. Just be sure to save the Ballad of Gay Tony for last, as it's arguably the best and most entertaining part of the entire package. Before we dive into the final game on our list, take a quick moment to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We release 2 carefully crafted videos every week covering the best in gaming. Subscribing ensures you never miss a great game recommendation, and it helps us keep bringing you high-quality content week after week. Alright, now let's get to the final game, and trust me, it's a special one. 2025 marked the 16-year anniversary of the first and arguably best game in the Arkham series. While all the titles are genuinely good, Arkham Asylum burst onto the scene with an unexpected force. Before this game, Rocksteady Studios was relatively unknown, yet they delivered Arkham Asylum and completely redefined stealth mechanics in video games. Prior to Arkham Asylum, stealth often cast you as the prey, but this game flipped the script, transforming you into the predator. It revolutionized vision mechanics, and the combat system was simply top-notch. It's truly one of the 3 great variations on action combat, alongside the Platinum formula and the Dark Souls style. All three are distinct, but each is fantastic in its own right. Nearly everything about Arkham Asylum was revolutionary for the gaming industry when it launched. It was brimming with exciting new ideas that other developers would eagerly adopt. It's truly remarkable how influential this series, particularly the first game, turned out to be. It's a fantastic game to revisit because it's so tightly paced and relatively short. Now, with all the innovations it introduced having been widely adopted elsewhere, you might feel a bit shortchanged buying a game like this at full price today. But coming back to it now, it's genuinely fantastic. You get everything you could possibly want from a Batman game in about 10 hours, making it fast, fun, and never boring. It's honestly wild how well this 16-year-old game still holds up. The fundamentals are absolutely rock solid. Getting a copy is easy, and there's even an updated remaster, Return to Arkham, that improves the visuals. Either version is great. The updates don't drastically alter the game. It's just a slightly nicer looking version of an already brilliant game. So there you have it, some of the best games that are still worth your time in 2025. Sometimes the most unforgettable adventures aren't found in the latest release, but in the games we once loved and left behind. If you've got a favorite game you think deserves another playthrough, drop it in the comments. We'd love to hear it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss more gaming content like this. Thanks for watching, and happy revisiting.